Welcome aboard the Ear to There podcast, the podcast that'll help you vacation like a pro in any Disney destination. For those of you standing, please sit down and hold on throughout our journey and get ready to learn how to have the time of your life. And now, here's your host, Phil Gramlich.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Ear to There podcast. I'm your host, Phil Gramlich. I'm also the owner and operator of Ear to There Travel, which is a Disney specialized travel agency. It's my job to help you have the best possible Disney vacation by taking away the stress and anxiety of planning a trip so you can focus on the fun things like your family and enjoying the magic. You can find the podcast, my blog, or request a free quote over at eartotheretravel.com. Now grab a drink, grab a snack, and as a famous mouse once said, on with the show. If you've been to any of the Disney theme parks in the United States or really anywhere else, you've had that moment. You're on an attraction and immersed in the story when all of a sudden, boom, there's a moment that blows you away and completely transports you to another time and place. On this episode of the podcast, we're going to talk about the best on-ride moments in Disney's theme parks. Joining me to talk about their favorite on-ride moments are three friends and Disney fans who've all been on the podcast before. First up, from the Alamo City, San Antonio, Texas, we're going to see just how much your Texas accent goes in and out during this podcast. Allie Miller, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, Phil, how are you?
Good, how are you? We got you all squared away now on the phone?
I think so.
All right, good. Up second from higherscorestestprep.com. She's an SAT and an ACT test expert and also an accomplished and well-known joggler. Lauren Gaggioli, welcome back to the podcast.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me, Phil.
You're welcome. Do you even know what joggling is?
I have no clue what that is.
Yeah, so it's amazing that you're an expert in joggling and you don't even know what it is.
I know. I didn't want to seem unfamiliar with my expertise. So
it's the guys, have you seen the guys during the Disney races? Oh, actually, not during the Disney races. During any other race that you do, they run and they juggle three balls at the same time. They do marathons and half marathons like that. It's amazing.
Well, I have to say, while I do enjoy a good run and Run Disney is awesome, I'm a terrible juggler. So I'll wear it as a sneaky secret expertise that I don't ever show anyone.
You have a starting point. That's all I have to say. All right. And last but not least, he's a former Disney cast member who can often be found. Sorry about that, Chuck. Wandering aimlessly around Epcot, searching for the secret entrance to Horizons. Chuck Rodriguez, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, everyone.
All right, so
glad to be back.
Yeah, thanks for coming back on. As I was saying to you earlier, I think the two episodes you did before are like the first and third most downloaded episodes I have so far. So as long as I can have you, I'll just keep asking you to come back on. All right, so when I was thinking of best on-ride moments, I took it pretty literally, so I didn't include any shows, any parades, or anything like that on my list. Not to say that you guys couldn't. It's just that I took a really literal interpretation of the words on ride. So since there's a bunch of us and it may take us a little bit of time to get through it, we probably should get right into it. And also, nobody wants to hear me talk. You guys all have better speaking voices than I do. So here's the we're gonna go in. We talked about this before, but we're going to go Allie, then Lauren, then Chuck, and then me. So, Allie, you're first. Best on-ride moments on Disney rides. Go. Your first one.
All right. Magic Kingdom, Peter Pan, Flying Over London.
Yeah. Perfect.
Oh, so good.
That's good.
Just doesn't get better. Animal Kingdom, Expedition Everest. What?
One at a time?
You didn't say anything. Nobody said anything. I was like, well, that was lame.
I thought you were going to describe. I was waiting for you to describe it a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about Peter Pan's flight.
Well, I want to say about Peter Pan's flight, anyone else looking forward to the first YouTube videos that I'm sure will come out very soon, the new version of Peter Pan's flight at Shanghai, because they say it's going to be a much newer, better version.
I think we have to rein it in a little bit, Chuck. All right, we're talking about the ones that we've seen, not the ones. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, of course, it's got to be cooler, right, with the new technology and all. It can't.
You would think.
But the cool thing about Peter Pan's flight, though, is it is very dated technology. I mean, it's been around since the 50s, basically, and it's still really cool. The moment flying over London is probably the coolest part of the entire attraction. So, Allie, since you brought it up.
Yeah, watching the cars go by on the highway.
Yeah, so really amazing that it's like the simplest effect ever that I'm not going to give away right now unless somebody else wants to ruin it for people. It's such a simple little thing. And I don't know how high up you actually are over the city. I've never looked into that, but you're not very high.
Not much, no.
No, I mean, you just feel like, you really do feel like you're flying over London. It's so cool. I don't know if I have a favorite. Shanghai's not open yet, Chuck. So I haven't seen that one yet. But I do love the one at Disneyland too. I just think that it's a little more, it's not better, but it's a little different. That scene's a little bit different, I think. So it's kind of apples and oranges, I guess. But if I'm nitpicking, I think I like the Disneyland one a little bit better.
It's the original.
Yeah.
Gotta love that.
I've never been to Disneyland, so I'll trust you.
You're going soon.
Girl, we will write it.
Yeah, you have that.
I know.
When you're out here.
That's on your bucket list.
For sure.
All right, so Peter Pan's Flight. We're off to a good start. Lauren, you're up next for your. And you know what? Who cares about the park? Just go. Go with your whatever you think the best on-ride moments are, and we'll go from there.
Oh gosh. Oh, so you just messed me up. I had lots of options for Magic Kingdom, so I'm just gonna start there. This is not necessarily my number one, but honestly, I as I think I just alluded to, I'm in California, so my home park is Disneyland and DCA. But so the one thing that I really love is that first rendition of Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. It's so beautiful. It's amazing. And I don't know, it just first of all, it gets stuck in your head for the rest of the day. So it goes on through the park with you. But I just so enjoy, and I don't know if that counts as a ride or a show. I count it as a ride because there's nobody performing.
There's movement.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's something so I don't know, transformative about it. And you're going to a different time and place, and there's so much hope around it. I just love that moment. And then I torture my husband with it for months after we get home. And he adores me all the more for it.
I torture my kids with it.
Yeah.
They have no interest in seeing that at all. They're like, are you kidding me? But yeah, the 3-year-olds, no chance they're going in there in a million years. But the 5-year-old, we'll get her to sit down and enjoy it. It is, you know what, too? I love the little when you're in line with the monitor and they have Walt Disney singing with the Sherman Brothers singing. It's a great big, It's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. Yeah, that's a really good pick. And it is definitely a ride, I think, because the Dolby Theater moves around in a circle, right? So it can't be a show if you're actually moving. So yeah, that's a great pick, Lauren. All right, Chuck, over to you for your third one. And again, there's no just
no, it's okay. I might as well.
It's like Thunderdome in here right now.
I'll be Tina Turner. Okay, so we don't need another hero. Okay, so I'm gonna go with Magic Kingdom.
Every time Chuck is on, there's a song.
There's always a song. Okay, so Magic Kingdom, and I'm gonna say Space Mountain, which I was on there last night. I already picked it, but I went last night anyway because I had nothing else to do last night. And actually, I'm not gonna say on the ride itself, but when you enter the queue and you first hear the doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo,
Yeah.
and you know how the area, I don't remember now, but didn't it used to be covered by gray plastic balls?
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah, that's right.
But I don't think it is now.
No, it's like an empty. It's like a big empty thing now.
Yeah. So for me, it's that because it really establishes, immediately that Space Mountain is such a unique attraction and brings you into something else right as you walk in.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, and it's not on ride at all. So Chuck's completely not listening to the rules once again.
I would have to disagree with you, Phil. Because for me, the attraction starts the moment you enter its world.
Thank you.
Especially with all of the work that Disney has done to make the queues more interactive and more encompassing. I think you gotta count that as on ride.
And remember that at Space Mountain for a while there in the beginning, at least I was assuming, from 75 until, when I started paying attention, so that must have been like the late 80s, early 90s. A lot of people would go through Space Mountain just to go through the queue and then the return because it was such a great show. And some people would skip the ride completely. And it is designed that you technically could have done that back before FastPass, they started messing around with the queues.
That's true.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So since I've already been told I'm incorrect a couple of times, that is a good pick. Do you guys remember when AC Slater was in the pre-show for?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mario Lopez?
Yeah, he was like Mission Control or something on the video screen.
Yeah.
And the guy who did the voice of Roger Rabbit.
Too.
Yo, what's that, Chuck? I'm sorry.
The guy who did the voice of Roger Rabbit.
No one's gonna remember his name.
I don't know his name either. No.
You got it. Can anyone do a Roger Rabbit impression? No. All right, we're gonna move on.
Yeah, we should fast. Go fast.
Right, so that takes over to me, and I'm gonna. I'll just stay in Magic Kingdom since that's where we've been so far. It's just tough because I have like 3 different ones that I can go with here. But I'm going to go with actually Splash Mountain. And it's not the drop itself, believe it or not. It's after the drop when you're completely disoriented and you're drying yourself off and you're trying to figure out what the heck just happened. And then you enter that huge show scene with the big, the ferry boat with all the chickens on it and all the animals singing Zippity Doo-Dah and all that. That, I think, is a very cool, unexpected moment of that attraction. So it's not better than a drop itself, but I think it's definitely like a kind of like a wow moment. So that's probably one of my favorite moments from that attraction.
Love that. So joyful.
I love it. Yeah.
It is. Yes.
And you get to hit Mickey in the clouds too.
That's right. Leaning back.
Really? Yeah. There's when you I forget what the name of the ship is, Chuck. Is it the Zippity Lady or something like that? It's the name of the boat.
Oh yeah,
that sounds right.
I'm asking you guys because whatever. But right behind it in the clouds is like a Mickey who's made out of the clouds behind there. So next time you're on Mars,
is it at Disneyland too?
I don't think so. I'm sorry. I know. Yeah, we're very
gotta come to Florida.
Yeah, we're very prejudiced towards the Magic Kingdom on this podcast right now. All right, so now we're going back over to Allie, and Allie, you can you want to go to Epcot? Great. You want to go wherever you want to go?
I'm going to go to Animal Kingdom.
Nice.
That's next on my list. And I'm going to go to Expedition Everest. And that moment when you come around the curve and the broken track is right in front of you. And
I had that on my list too.
Oh, me too.
Wait, when the what? When the what's in front of you?
The broken track.
Oh, yes.
That's it. That moment before you start going backwards.
Yeah. Oh, you just spoiler alert.
Just
in case nobody knew that was going to happen, please now you're already done because you already heard it. But yeah, that part, it's awesome. And I kind of forget. This kind of seems to go in and out of my memory. I don't know if this is still there. Isn't there a bird that comes up out from behind the mountain when you get to the top?
Yeah, not anymore.
It's not there anymore?
Mm-mm. I don't remember the last time I saw it. No.
That was such a cool effect when he got up there. Just added a little bit of movement when he got to the top of the mountain. Yeah. There. But yeah, Allie, that's a good pick. And I've been on it a couple years ago. I was on when they had that track piece missing, the ripped up track. So, and I was in the second row. So you get up to that edge, and the front of your vehicle, the coaster vehicle, actually goes over the edge a little bit. You want to talk about being completely freaked out. You've been on it before. You know what's going to happen. But when you have that view without that ripped up track in front of you, it can scare the pants off you. And as silly as it sounds, I remember sitting there and being like, "Oh, is this going to be different this time?" But it wasn't, obviously. But
man.
But anyway, that's a cool one. So all right, so Lauren, you're up, and where are we going? We staying in Animal Kingdom? Are you going somewhere else?
Baby, we're coming to California.
Nice.
We're gonna go to Disneyland. And it kind of is off of the Everest moment, because I love the unexpectedness and how creative Disney is with all of their attractions. Like, they're always looking not necessarily to make it faster or more aggressive, but like just different ways to work within ride systems. And I like the unexpected is what gets me. Like, that moment on Next is absolutely in my list, because I remember looking at my dad when we started going backwards and we were like, what is going on? So I think a lot of these moments are like who you share it with. And so I was also with my father. My dad's my Disney buddy. My dad and my mom and we all got annual passes when I was a kid, and we had just moved back to California, went on Indy for the first time. When that boulder started coming down at us towards the end, we were like, what is happening? Like, we're in the movie, the scene, and we're going, where, like, you're sitting in this shaft, like, where are you gonna go? And so that moment of surprise of how they get you out of that, I won't do any spoilers if you haven't been, but how they get you out of that predicament is so Indy. Like, it's so intrinsic to his character, and like you just feel like you're on an adventure with him. So I have that moment, and every time it gets me.
We'll say Indiana Jones is the greatest, most immersive Disney attraction yet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, without a doubt it is. When they say it's dinosaur, because it's the same track,
No.
And I'm an Animal Kingdom guy. I love the park. I work there. I love it. But come on, let's be for real. It's not. Dinosaur is black room after black room with some pretty cool, black lit animatronic dinos. Indiana Jones is just a completely different experience. It's night and day compared to Dinosaur. It doesn't even feel like the same ride. I know it's not the same ride. That's silly. It doesn't even feel like the same system. It's completely different. This was on my list too. As a Disney and both a Disney and Indiana Jones nerd, the moment on that attraction when you go through the room with the darts that are shooting at you from either side, or the arrows, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You feel like you're in Temple of Doom, and like with the music, and oh my god, I love that. It's such a great attraction. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, just the stuff that they pull out from the movies, where it's like it's harkens back to it, but it's its own thing, and you're there. Like, it's not like you're watching someone else. It's completely immersive. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the thing about when you do the dinosaur Indy comparison, it stops at the ride system, because like that cavern that you first come into, once you look into the eyes and Salah's along for the ride, like it's just you can't even, you get to see the whole scale of it. And I like you said, black room after black room, it doesn't feel the same when you're on Dinosaur. No. So yeah,
when you go into that room and you see the bridge in front of you with the flames, and oh my god, it's so cool. Yeah, and poor Allie's sitting over there being like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're ruining this whole
No, but I will. When I get to Disneyland, I will go and check it out, and I will tell you if you're wrong.
Don't re-listen to this podcast, because you're not gonna. I don't want you to be bummed out going in, because it really is just one of those attractions that my first trip to Disneyland was when we first got married, in my wife and I, obviously, in 2008, and I think we went on it like in 2 days. We went on that ride like 4 or 5 times, because it's that good. And it's not new. It's an attraction that's been around for a long time. And
95.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. And it's it's just it's a great attraction. It really is. And
talk about the queue being an immersive experience. I mean, that one. And oh my gosh!
Again, that goes back 20 years of. Having because it is an extraordinary long queue. I mean, really, and it's crazy how actually long it is. But we talk about now, like Disney putting all these new interactive queues in. That's been around forever, and it was interactive, years ago.
It's probably one of the first.
Yeah, I would think
interactive queues, and it's not through tech, which is kind of an interest. It's more tactile.
But it's
interesting.
Still, if you, I know we did it. I haven't done it since our first trip, but. It's definitely worth, figuring out all the clues and everything along the way. It's a really cool thing to do.
The Coronado's in there. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. The cross of Coronado?
Not the cross. There's a packing crate.
No, I didn't know
that. Because you know how the ship
huh.
was the SS Coronado?
Yes.
And there's other stuff. Oh, the Obi-Wan, they harken back to that and I'm sure there's one from the first, but I've not yet found it. So yeah, that little room before you go up where you can actually see where the cars load.
Right.
That there you pass like this little room that's kind of off to the side, and if you're paying attention, you can see like these little Easter eggs. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now I have to come back to Disneyland.
All right then.
I have to do a race out there. I'm trying to figure out which one I should do. All right, so Tinkerbell. Do I have? We're
doing it for Allie's birthday.
Yeah.
Can I do Tinkerbell, or do I like?
Yeah.
I know
We'll get you a tutu.
It's. I look good.
And wings.
I look good in a tutu. I can rock it. But
we won't go any further with that.
Yeah. All right. So let's go to the next one. We'll talk about that offline. All right. So that was Lawrence Big Chuck. Back over to you, and wherever you're.
Okay. I'm going back to Animal Kingdom and back to Expedition Everest, but I've chosen the right after the moment with that where you actually do go into the cave backwards, for no spoiler alerts, and the feeling, to this day I don't know exactly how the track is laid out, but for me and for many people I've talked to, it literally takes my heart out of my chest for a few seconds, but it's an incredible feeling. And I write it over and over again just for that part once you actually go into the mountain.
Yeah, it's awesome. And again, for spoiler alert if you haven't written it, but it does go backwards in the dark. And yeah, you freak the heck out when you're going down there backwards. It's something that if you're not expecting, if it's the first time on it, you're not, unless you've listened to this podcast, and now you are. Yeah, it is. It can really freak you out. It's a great moment.
The first time when I you watch YouTube videos, but on the YouTube video you can't tell what happens obviously during that scene because it is pitch black. And when I first wrote it, when I first got back to Orlando, and 2 days after I moved, I went and got my annual pass and went straight to the park. I wrote that first because it had opened while I was gone from Orlando. And yes, it literally took my breath away, and it has every time that I've written it since.
I took my mom on that for her first time ever, and she was asking the cast member, like, is it crazy? And they're like, oh no, you go backwards for 7 seconds, but that does not feel like any 7 seconds I've ever experienced.
Is it really only 7 seconds?
That's what the cast member said, but I can always count to like 30 before we stop going. So either I count really fast or that's some long seconds.
Yeah, I had never timed it, but it is a great part of the ride. And I remember and Chuck knows this very well. My wife is not, and I've said it before on a podcast, she's not a thrill ride fan at all. And I was still a cast member when Everest opened. And we went to I had done the preview before, and then after the opening, I said, you have to ride it. It's not that bad. It's like Thunder Mountain. It's not a bad roller coaster. And she was like, all right, because I'm terrible and she's trusting. So we rode, and during that part when you're going backwards down the hill, she screamed directly into my ear as she was almost crying, I will never trust you again. And well, I can say that's not completely true. It's kind of true. Like, I don't think she's been on a thrill ride since that. Oh, wait, I did get her on the Mummy at the other park that shall not be named. And, yeah, she didn't like that either. But, yeah, so Ames, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry for all.
I mean, she married you anyway, so it must have been not that big of a deal.
That's a good point. All right, so I'm going to stay. It's my turn, right? Yeah, I'm the fourth one.
Yes.
I'm going to stay in Animal Kingdom again. And I'm going to go to Kilimanjaro Safari. And the whole attraction is great, but there's one moment in particular that I really like. And it's lost a little bit over the years because the story has kind of gone away. So and I'm not even saying when they lost the whole Big Red, Little Red thing, because I understand you had to get rid of that, or I think in the beginning One of them was shot dead by poachers, which is horrible. But anyway, when you make the big turn onto the savannah for the first time, when you turn, your vehicle takes that left and you go into the huge open savannah and you see just how huge that attraction is. And you're actually like in Africa for a minute. It's amazing. The view that you're supposed to have is, all kinds of animals that you can see, you seemingly see for miles. But you see giraffes, you see wildebeest, ostriches, antelope, all kinds of stuff. And there's times, when it's, 1,000 degrees and you see, the savannah and that's it. But mostly it's a really cool moment. I just love that part. And it's not, there's nothing really very thrilling about it, but it's just to see the vast size of it. And, it's just cool. And again, I'm kind of a sucker for Animal Kingdom because I worked there in my college program, so it's a big deal for me. But I love the fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be, but I think this is right, that they said that all of Magic Kingdom can be placed comfortably into that attraction, which blows my mind. That's just how...
Yeah, acreage-wise, I'm sure it's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can, ride through that thing forever. It's crazy. And guests don't even really realize it, that you don't follow the same roads every time. Like your safari guide will take you on different roads, different times where the animals are. So technically, it's not the same ride every time.
And you are talking, Phil. So at that moment when they also when you stop because they do stop. Usually they stop the truck for a second, and it's the baobab tree, and they tell you about how it only flowers like once a month.
Yeah, so it's
I've been at least once every month during the entire year, and I still haven't seen a flower. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm going to give you a little. I'm going to give you a little.
Timed it wrong.
I'm going to give you a little imaginary secret on that one, Chuck. Did you know that baobab tree is made out of concrete?
No,
that's a shame.
That's gotta hurt.
I did not know.
You didn't know? Are you being funny or you didn't know?
No, I'm being funny. I knew.
Yeah. So they actually didn't have the technology.
And that was the story of how Phil crushed Chuck's dream.
He's so late. He's too late.
All right, so before we get out of hand here,
Too late.
Yeah, who's next? So, Allie, you're next. You take us to whatever park you want to go to.
All right, well, I'm going to do my best one before Chuck steals it. I'm going to Epcot, and I'm going to my hometown of the Mexico Pavilion because I have this whole theory about how the Mexico Pavilion on the inside is really downtown San Antonio. And if you've never been here, trust me, you have, because you've been in the Mexico Pavilion in Epcot. But my favorite ride, based on my favorite movie, is the Grand Fiesta Tour starring the Three Caballeros.
Nice. So,
in the attraction, as you're going through the boat, and this is kind of a new moment that's only been there for a few months, as you come around toward the end of the ride, they have repurposed the animatronics from the old show in the Magic Kingdom, the opening day show that was where Mickey's PhilharMagic is, and now the name is gone from my mind.
Mickey Mouse Review.
Mickey Mouse Review. Thank you, Google Alley. They repurposed the Three Caballeros. They actually went like to Tokyo or somewhere for a while, and then they were in storage for forever. And they put them back in December, and I missed it by 2 days. And the reason I missed it, we were supposed to be in Epcot the day that they unveiled that, but we had switched because we wanted to see Neil Patrick Harris do the Christmas thing. So anyway, we missed it. But I went back for Princess, and that was like the first thing I had to do when we were in Epcot is go ride that ride and see those animatronics, which in all of their 1970s glory, they are so amazing and fabulous, and that is the end.
Dude, by the way, agree. They look ridiculous for being that old. They're
right.
I couldn't believe it when we did it in January for marathon weekend when we were down, and I was talking to my wife and I was like, "There is no way they're the same ones that were here in '71 when the park opened." And I obviously I'm a nerd and I did a little research, and they are, and they're really, really well done. They're very cool.
I actually have a theory about that.
Let's hear it.
Because, and this is not a joke, this is dead serious, because it was okay. So it was in Tokyo from 1983 until only about a few years ago when they also replaced it with Mickey's PhilharMagic.
Right.
And you know that, I mean, article after article tells us that at Tokyo the maintenance is absolutely ridiculous compared to in the States. So if they were constantly replacing the 1971 technology every few years, by the time the attraction closed only a few years ago, it was practically a brand new hardware, I would assume, in the actual animatronics.
So you're telling me that the Three Caballeros are like RoboCop?
They're cyborgs.
Yes. But they're not from Detroit.
They're synthetic humanoid animatronics that have been upgraded throughout the centuries. That's a good theory. I don't know if, that's a... Yeah.
No, I don't know if it's really true, but...
Listen, who knows? But that's something that we could talk about offline again. So, again... Allie, always out of left field. That's a really cool one, the Three Caballeros. By the way, my kids, again, I'm going to bore the heck out of you talking to my kids, but they love, we do this attraction at least like 3 times. And Chuck, you've been with us. We do it at least like 3 times a trip because I don't know what it is. They just love it. Maybe they just love Mexico. I don't know what it is. They love that ride.
Well,
and of course,
my son is like in love with the movie, and he sings the song, and I'm totally psyched to take him in September and show him that attraction. He is going to flip. It's going to be amazing.
I think for me, it's because La Cava is so close, and I can just get a margarita whenever the heck I want, and then just get on the ride. You can finish your margarita in line; they don't really care. All right, so Lauren, you're up with your next one.
Well, I'll stick with animatronic figures here and go with the tableau of the prison dog and the prisoners in Pirates. And I think the coolest part about this moment was when it was then transported into the movie, and I got to see it twice. And I saw it once in Atlanta, and I saw it once in Anaheim. Like, I grew up in Orange County, so it was not necessarily in Anaheim, but close by. So, a bunch of kids who had gone to Disney, and then, a place where maybe there was a higher percentage of people who didn't know what the heck that was. When I saw it in Atlanta, I cracked up, and it was just dead silence. Just like, nobody gets this. Like, nobody understands. It's right where the boats start backing up, at least here in California. And so you sit there looking at this dog for a really long time. But when I saw it in Orange County, the audience lost it. It was one of those crazy things, like, in my young mind where I go, oh, like, this is not everybody knows Disney. And then I just found a lot of people who did like Disney, which is then why I'm on this show. So that's one of my all-time favorite moments because it ties to other memories. But also, I mean, it's just... it's so hysterical. Like, you sit there, this dog has control over these big bad pirates. It's kind of like the ultimate reversal. So I love it.
Yeah, you realize not everybody is a complete Disney nerd like you are when that scene rolled through. There was a couple other ones too in that movie where
oh yeah,
like the redhead coming up and slapping him in the face, and the pigs and.
It's a litmus test. Like, if you want to see if somebody can be your friend, you watch that movie and you see if they laugh at the right stuff.
Yeah. Until I started doing, like, the podcast and the blog and stuff, nobody got me. But, like, what movie is that? Scrooged. With Bill Murray when he says, we wouldn't want to scare the dickens out of people. Nobody gets me. I just love that line.
Yes.
Anyway, so... All right, Chuck, from Pirates, where are you going next?
Okay, I will go ahead and stay in Epcot, and I am actually going to do a attraction that is technically no longer there because Nemo and Friends replaced it. But when it was still the original Living Seas, and the first pre-show, because there were technically 2 pre-shows before you get on the little sea cab or whatever they were called. And in that first pre-show, and it was the film about how the Earth evolved and how the oceans evolved, and you would hear that twice. There was 2 lines from the movie that to this day, almost everyone I know, personally know, maybe it's a litmus test. So it's only people who I like know what this is from. When they would said, and it rained, and it rained, and it rained, and then later they said, and the planet waits and waits and waits. Yes. And to this day, yes, I will never forget those lines from that pre-show.
So again, Chuck, totally disregarding the rules.
It was technically a ride attraction. It was just a pre-show to the attraction.
It was. Not anymore. It's been gone for years.
Well, it's been gone.
I knew as soon as you said that area of the park, I knew that you were going with, and it rained and rained.
And it rains and it rains. The deluge. Yeah, no, she would say, the deluge. And I remember with friends and coworkers, we would watch it and we would try to figure out who the voice was. I believe it was an actress who was also the lady in Back to School. Anybody remember the Rodney Dangerfield Back to School movie? Yes, that lady who fell in love with him, the professor. Okay. And she used to do the Hidden Valley Ranch commercials, narrations.
Dude, we are going deep down the rabbit hole right now.
I don't even know where we are.
Come back out.
What are we talking about?
Come back out of the hole.
Yeah, I don't. All right, so I'm just going to go because we just went way too far. All right, so I'm going to stay in Epcot, even though Lauren wasn't in Epcot. So Chuck, you kind of dropped the ball on that.
It's all right. Pirates is in Epcot, is it not?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. We'll just tell everybody it's in Epcot.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go over to Spaceship Earth. And there are a lot of really cool moments in Spaceship Earth, right? Like the moment when you go through where Michelangelo is painting. It's Michelangelo, right? I'm not getting the wrong artist.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Just making sure.
Oh my gosh.
I thought I researched that. But when he's painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, for me that part is really, really cool. Only because it's just a really neat. Like the music changes, like the Hallelujah like chorus comes in, and what's really funny about this, by the way, and my wife may kill me and my father-in-law may kill me, but it's recently been proven that he didn't paint the Sistine Chapel on his back like that. So whenever we ride with my father-in-law, he's like, "No, did you know that's not how he did it?" Like in the middle of the attraction, every single time. He has to prove that part wrong.
And if I can say, because I know I'm going to go too deep for this, but there is a reason I've read this, and it's also part of my own theory. But there's a reason why that scene, the music kind of hits a crescendo, and then it goes from there it goes straight to the printing press, right. and I guess at the end of the Civil War, because the newspaper boy is saying that the Civil War is over, and it's because. The segue into the evolution of I guess communication and culture, it made sense because for so long it was all about religion, and then it just segues into when we started going into the modern era of technology and communication and just making life easier. Just saying, I know it's very deep, but I've thought about it.
Leave it to Chuck to completely dissect Spaceship Earth. I bring it to
scene by scene,
a historical level. Meanwhile, I couldn't remember if it was Michelangelo or Leonardo, and pretty much the only reason I couldn't remember
not Donatello or Raphael.
Because my son has all the Ninja Turtles.
I love you, Lauren.
Well, you got to go by the colors.
No,
all right.
My
did he paint it with nunchucks? Did he paint it with size?
A bow or
I
katana?
want pizza.
No, because my son has all the Ninja Turtle toys, like literally 10 feet from where I am right now, where I'm recording this. So I knew what I wanted to say, but then all of a sudden I was like, oh man, I'm going to sound like a dope because I'm going to get the wrong Ninja Turtle. And I'm not going to know what the heck I'm talking
about. No, that.
So, as long as you can say Splinter or April, you're fine.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Splinter painted the Sistine Chapel and then designed David after that.
And then he dove into the sewers afterwards.
All right, we're getting completely off the rails here. Allie, you're up for your next one.
All right, well, I had one for the studios, but I got to be honest, it's just not my gig. The studio is just not for me right now. So
I don't think it is for anybody right now.
I'm saying. So I'm going to go ahead and continue my tradition of saying things nobody expects to hear and stay in Epcot, in the Land Pavilion, living with the land,
Nice.
As you're coming out of the dark and you go into the greenhouse, and it's just this moment of like your eyes adjusting to the light and seeing all of the plants and the water and the nifty stuff and the hydroponic sciencey things, and that whole little section of that ride is one very long moment. And it's just incredible. And sometimes they have different things growing. I've seen them growing Mickey pumpkins for Halloween, but they have like in a little mold, or I think with Mickey watermelons we saw one time. So they do kind of all crazy, sciencey, planty things, and that's pretty nifty.
Yeah, listen, that we can count that as all one big moment, because I love that part too. I love that part. I love the whole attraction. And that's, again, how nerdy I am, because I drag my kids on it, and they look like I'm going to, I'm taking them on the worst boat ride on the planet. But it's that part of it is why I go on it. I want to see what's growing. Like you said, the Mickey pumpkins, or the lemons that are the size of your head, or, they have the hydroponics, which I miss the live tour guide on that attraction. I don't know if you guys remember.
Yeah.
When they would have a guy with a microphone and did it. I had one time we had a guy years ago, maybe like 90s at some point. He had a really funny way of saying the word hydroponics. And he remember from what movie was that? He emphasized, put the emphasis on a wrong syllable.
On the wrong syllable.
Yeah. I forget what movie that was.
Oh, yeah.
Love Guru or something?
What was it? The Love Guru?
Oh, no, it was Mike Myers.
I think it was the Mike Myers.
It was the one in the plane.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I never saw it.
No,
I just saw the preview.
Yeah, the preview was
apparently that was the best moment. So
right. So
check.
We had a guy, instead of saying like hydroponics like normally, he would say hydroponics. Like he would just like really hit the P in hydroponics. And for me, for some reason, that always sticks in my head. And every time I go on that now and they say the word hydroponics, I laugh like hysterically by myself in my boat. But yeah, that's one that I did not expect to hear in the best on ride moments of any Disney park. But yeah, Allie, you do continue.
Well, it's why you asked me back, because you never know what's going to come out of my mouth.
That's true. All right. Well, Lauren, you're up. What do you got?
All righty. I'm really sorry to everybody who is a Disney World fan, but I'm gonna go with maybe a sore subject for some of you, but I'm gonna go with Toad, the only ride in all of Disney, and I'm gonna go with the train moment, the transition, and where you go after you get hit by the train. I just remember as a kid that being the most terrifying thing. And never being able to figure out how we got out of it. Like, I just, again, one of those unexpected moments, it was like, oh my gosh. And then the transition into hell, and it's hot and there's devils. And that just is one of those things that I think was maybe the first ride moment that made me brave, because I didn't expect it, and it didn't seem like it was going to be scary. And then it was, and then I lived and came out the other end. Sorry, it's spoilers. You actually live. And it, like, that moment, I know, right? That moment to me was always just still is like so exhilarating. So I love that one. And I love going like with my nephew, because you can just see his eyes like get so wide, and he's scared for a second, but then, it's all good at the end because he's got to drive a car. So yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite moments.
So we went on this. I was in 2009. I went. My buddy and my wife and I were just married, and we went out with a friend of ours and his wife and their child, who was like 2.5, and we rode that, and it had been closed in Magic Kingdom for years at that point, and I remember going through it, and I hadn't been on it, not ever, but for a while since the Magic Kingdom. And I remember looking at it through the eyes of his daughter and being like, she was terrified the entire time. Like, it's amazing that ride, like, I know in the 50s it was like this, it was fine, but it's kind of scary for a little kid right now if you ride through it, even though it's cardboard cutouts and it's, but like you said, it's, you go to hell at the end of the ride. And
yeah,
it's a little freaky for a kid. And I remember riding it again when I was out there last year and being like, man, I understand why it's a classic ride. It's really cool. It's really neat that it's still here. But man, it's kind of an edgy ride for a kid to ride. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I don't know. I mean, nothing says family fun like driving a car straight to hell. Sometimes
like everybody's road trip.
That's what you
Disney
feel
World,
like
right?
you do.
That's me every day going to the grocery store. Straight to hell. Anyway, yeah, no, that's a great ride though, and I miss it, and I don't in Magic Kingdom because, like I said, I think I'd have to explain like life and death to my kids every time we rode it if we had to do it often. So it's
remember, Phil, like I always say, you pay attention much more when you walk around Disney without children. I'm just saying, it helps.
I think that's what it is. I unfortunately can't just hand my kids off to somebody when I get there. Be like, hey, I want to go have fun at the Magic Kingdom. Can you take these 3 from me for a while? All right, so where were we? That was, who had that one? Lauren. So Chuck, you're up.
Okay, so I am going to go to the park that for the next 2 years I predict will be the least popular theme park in the Disney line around the world, even less popular than Walt Disney Studios in Paris. And that is the Disney Hollywood Studios. So I have 2, so I'll just pick one now, and if we go around to me again, then I'll use the other one. But the end of the Great Movie Ride with all the clips from all the movies. I absolutely love that. I don't care how many times, and they've improved it. They've updated it a couple times, including now with the whole TCM thing. And I love to watch all of those clips and mostly try to figure out how many of those movies I've actually seen. I really enjoy doing that.
I want to say that I've seen all of them, but then you always get one that you're like, I have no idea what that was. But yeah, that's a cool pick, Chuck. I like that one.
Yeah, really cool.
All right, so I am going to go to stick in Hollywood Studios, and for me, Tower of Terror, and the moment in particular that I'm talking about is the one when you get to the top of the tower, regardless of what point in your ride, because it's pretty random at this point, but when the doors open and you can see the entire park in front of you, that I think is the coolest part of that whole attraction, because you really don't realize that you're that high until, you feel like when you're going up in the dark and you're going up and up and up. But until those doors open when you're at the top of the, the Hollywood Tower Hotel, you never realize that you're 13 stories up. And it's such a cool view, especially at night when you're at night and you can look kind of through the sign and see the entire park below you. I think that's a really, really cool part. And, oh, guys, by the way, I don't know if you heard the news, but they are opening a bar inside the
Is that
tower.
real?
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was so afraid that was like somebody's leftover April Fool's joke.
No, that's a real thing. So if you're kind of a wimp and you don't like to ride the tower.
Well, now, wait a minute now. I mean, because here's what I got to say about that. And I've ridden it, and I like it fine and all of that. But I got to tell you, like the queue and the pre-show and the beginning of that attraction are so immersive and so intense. Like by the time you get to that moment where they've opened those elevator doors and you see the park in front of you, most people are about to have a stroke just from the intensity of all of that build up. And you haven't even been yanked down faster than gravity yet. It's like,
agreed.
You're not a wimp if you choose not to ride it.
Now, I do still write it rarely because now back in the 90s and early 2000s, I probably wrote it several times a week. But now that I'm 40, I get nauseous if I just turn around too fast. So I have to be careful with it. But I did want to say, Phil, because you said obviously the big part of it for you is to see the whole park. I predict that in the next 2 years, people will be writing that just so they can take pictures of the construction going on at the park and the progress of the construction.
Oh, you're probably dead on.
You're making sure. Yeah, you make sure you go on during the day, so you put your extra zoom lens on there, and yeah, you're probably right. I didn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Allie, I'm sorry that I offended you. I was only.
I'm only playing. You didn't offend me. But what I said is true. It's intense.
Oh, it is. It
is
one of the most intense attractions in all of Disney.
Do you guys remember when it was only one drop?
Yeah.
And that was enough.
No.
That was.
Yeah, I mean, you would do the whole show. the lead up and the show, and then you would do one drop right down, and that was it. I think with that, we've filled up a lot of time, so I think we're gonna probably cut it there. But really quickly, on the way out, does anybody have anything we didn't mention that you want to kind of go over really quickly? Anybody?
Yeah, I got one little honorable mention because I feel bad that I left it off.
No, do
and
it.
It's in the studio, so it's totally on topic. The rock and roller coaster, the moment you take off, it's 1,065 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's
done.
Steven Tyler's voice behind your head and doing the countdown. Of course, I love that one. Chuck, do you have one?
Yep, that's it.
Actually, for the Tower of Terror, when you enter the queue, because I know you're not on the ride yet, so I understand, Phil. I'm always breaking the rules here. But when my first job at Disney, I was coordinating the Disney Institute programs, and I remember on the tours they would teach us that as soon as you enter the hotel on the left, there's a table with a game of mahjong.
Right.
And that the way that Imagineering did that is they actually did advertise for a group of old ladies in Orlando who play mahjong together, for 4 of them to come play, and at some point they just said stop. Yeah. And they just glued or nailed the pieces down.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
To this day, I look at there and I like to think that the Golden Girls were just eating cheesecake and playing mahjong right there at that table.
Always comes back to the Golden Girls.
Always.
You know what's funny is that was the original. That is true, and that's the story behind the. I don't think it's the same way anymore, but the pirates in the queue down in one of the little dungeons in the Pirates of the Caribbean queue. We're playing chess. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yes, and it's a stalemate.
It's a stalemate, right.
I heard there was a stalemate, yeah.
Yeah, so they both died and no one could win that game. That's kind of a cool thing. And my last one, my little honorable mention is in California Adventure, sorry, Allie, but Radiator Springs Racers, there's a part where you're in a little dark tunnel and then you come out and you make this turn and you see this huge waterfall in front of you. The music changes. It's I can't really explain it. It's just this really neat reveal of this whole part of the attraction that you don't see, you don't expect, you don't see in the queue. They did a really great job out at DCA, reimagining and renovating that park. So Allie, I'm really excited for you to get out there and see it, and for anyone else who hasn't gotten out, to get a chance to do any of that. The park's just phenomenal out there. So I know, Chuck, you've been out there. It's awesome.
Yes, before Radiator Springs, but yes, no, they've done an incredible job with turning around DCA.
It's amazing. It's probably and this is a very off the top of my head ranking, but that's probably my 3rd favorite Disney park now, behind Disneyland and Magic Kingdom. I think they've done such a good job with that park. It's really, really awesome. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you guys again for coming on with me again and for, donating your time, and donating sounds strange, for giving up your time. I really appreciate it.
No worries. It's fun, as always.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, it is.
So you guys go visit Allie and her husband Chad over at cmautocare.com. They're the best auto care in all of the greater San Antonio area. So thanks, Allie, for coming on.
Anytime.
And finally, Chuck, thank you for being on the podcast again.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is always entertaining and it's fun, and we'll do it again because for some reason people really like to hear you talk. So we're going to do that again. So thank you guys very much for being on again, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Ear to There podcast. Thanks again to my guests, Allie, Chuck, and Lauren, who can be found over at higherscorestestprep.com. I really hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and if you did, please tell people about it. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbors, tell your dog walker, whoever you'd like to tell. And please just spread the word and go on iTunes, go on at Stitcher, leave a rating, leave a review. I'd really appreciate that. That'll help more people get to hear the show. You can even leave a really nice 5-star review like A. Jeffords, who said, fantastic, best Disney podcast on the net. Helps me get through my workday. If you need help planning a trip, this podcast is the most informative show. Wow, thank you so much for that review. WDW Traveler wrote, different and fun. This podcast stands out from all the other Disney podcasts I listen to. So thank you so much for that. So thank you guys so much again for listening, and look for a new episode of the podcast every Monday morning. Thanks, and have a great week. Bye-bye.